Really insidious thing about violent extremist ideology. You are attracted to this because you're hurting. You're attracted to this ideology, and the ideology tells you you're a warrior for your people, whoever your people are.
The problem with suicidal thoughts is how intense they are. It feels like they will never end. And when you're in that, you have this kind of tunnel vision. It feels like it's going to last forever.
Majority of people look at a homeless person. They're a drug addict. They made bad choices. If homelessness was a punishment for bad choices, we'd all be homeless.
The women that are struggling, that gives the blowjob at $5, this for me is pure 100% exploitation.
I stabbed my wife 3 times one night because she wouldn't let me finish my bottle of vodka. Still not thinking I had a drink problem.
Ultimately, 1 in 2 Americans will experience family estrangement. So that's 50% of the population.
To be completely honest with you, I am a refugee, but I'm not just a refugee.
Because I am George, I'm not George with Down syndrome or Down's George, because that's not me.
Welcome to Purposeful Empathy, a show that is dedicated to amplifying the voices of people from across the globe who understand the world needs more empathy and are doing something about it. This season will inspire you to empathize with people who are regularly marginalized and misunderstood. You won't want to miss a single episode, so hit the subscribe button now. Thanks for watching and enjoy the show.
Nor did I think at this point that I had a drink problem. I stabbed my wife 3 times one night because she wouldn't let me finish my bottle of vodka. Still not thinking I had a drink problem. I left my little children, 1 and 3, in cinemas while I went out to get drink from the nearest liquor store. I drove with them in the back of the car, drinking a bottle of vodka straight out the bottle, traveling 100 miles an hour from London to Manchester. But I never had a problem, is what I keep telling myself. And finally, it all came tumbling down. They served me with unfit father papers. And as I stumbled to the door, the police was there, the services, the child protection services were there. She was there, mum-in-law there, and mother-in-law took the youngest, and Margaret, who was my wife, took my eldest, and she's walking down the path holding mum's hand. And I'm crying, like, I can't believe what's happened. And one of the police officers was crying. It was very, very sad. And my daughter said 3 things to me. She says, Daddy, Daddy, please don't go. And as we're walking down the path, get halfway down, she turned around and says, Daddy, Daddy, please get better. And as they got to the gate, my wife opened the big wrought iron gate, and she turned around at 3 years old and said, Daddy, Daddy, please stop drinking.
Welcome to a new episode of Purposeful Empathy. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Robb Kelly, a sought-after recovery expert who has dedicated his life to helping people break free from addiction by addressing its root causes, not just the symptoms. Robb has been featured on The Doctors, Good Morning Texas, and countless radio and print outlets, including USA Today. He's also contributed to groundbreaking research at McLean Hospital at Harvard on the stigma of mental illness. In addition to his clinical work, Robb hosts the Breaking Through Addiction podcast, where he engages in powerful conversations on mental health with a wide range of guests. He's also created the Let's Get Back to 98% Recovery program, a resource that's used in prisons and recovery centers across the U.S. to help people reclaim their lives. As CEO of the Robb Kelly Recovery Group, he leads an organization transforming lives through innovative recovery coaching, and his work has reached prisons, schools, treatment centers, and communities across the U.S. and beyond. But Robb's journey is also deeply personal. He has lived through the pain of crippling alcoholism and come out the other side, a story that he shares in his powerful book, Daddy, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. This season, I'm shining a spotlight on people who often feel marginalized or misunderstood. And through each conversation, my goal is to better understand different lived experiences in order to widen our circle of empathy. Given his own journey to the other side of addiction and coupled with his lifelong commitment to help others heal, I've invited Robb to share his insights about breaking the cycle of substance abuse and how recovery can truly transform lives. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thank you so much, Anita. Great to be here. Thank you for having me on.
I'm so excited. And I just for all people listening and viewing, I'll just share that before I hit record, he actually said this is going to be the best podcast of all time. All right. So here we go. Look at those muscles. Great.
Of course, it's going to be amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Beautiful. Okay, so it's not going to be my voice for much longer, but I do want to read about your book, okay? Because this really caught my attention. This is the description of your book on Amazon. I'm not sure when I crossed the line from social drinking to alcoholism. I just know I did, and my life would never be the same again. I was married with children and had a great career. Life could not have been better. The only problem is that I drank too much, and when I did, I lost control. When I enjoyed my drinking, I couldn't control it. And when I controlled my drinking, I couldn't enjoy it. Finally, alcoholism gripped me hard, and like most people, I sank really quickly. I lost everything: my business, my home, my wife, and most importantly, my 2 young daughters. I had a PhD from Oxford University, but went from a comfortable home to homelessness and lived on the mean streets of Manchester, England for a year asking for handouts to purchase liquor. While homeless, I was arrested several times, prone to blackouts that lasted for weeks, and was assaulted physically and sexually. I have had several near brushes with death, including an attempted suicide. So great was my despair of my alcoholic and addictive condition that I just wanted to die. So I wonder if you could take us back through that journey and what made you turn your life around.
I've never actually read my book. I never watched myself on TV, anything like that. And the main reason is I might start believing in hype, and I can't really do that. So that was emotional for me when you're reading that. Nobody's read that back to me before. Yeah. So I grew up in a musical family. So by the age of 9, I'm on stage with my auntie and uncle playing professionally and paid for it. And I took my first drink at the age of 9 years old because I was a nervous child. My uncle gave it to me, drink this, you'll feel great. And I did. So that was my introduction to alcoholism. And on the way, the journey became horrendous as alcohol took over. So I wanted to be a pro musician all my life. Never actually made it, but I did do a lot of work behind the scenes, like recording studios with Elton John, Bowie, Queen, all them guys. I'm the brain that either does something or doesn't. I don't do half miss. I'm going to start something, but I don't know. I'm either all in or I'm all out. Somebody said the other day, you want to come and play basketball? I've never played before. It'll be fun. No, it won't. I'm not doing it. I'll never be any good at it. That kind of mindset. So school was okay. I got through by my music and stuff. Very nervous child. And then it got worse and worse and worse, of course. And as one thinks, I'm going to get a family around me and I'll stop me drinking. I didn't have a drink problem, but if I could just stop drinking for the new wife and stuff, it never happened. And I couldn't understand why. Nor did I think at this point that I had a drink problem. I stabbed my wife 3 times one night because she wouldn't let me finish my bottle of vodka. Still not thinking I had a drink problem. I left my little children, 1 and 3, in cinemas while I went out to get drink from the nearest liquor store. I drove with them in the back of the car, drinking a bottle of vodka straight out the bottle, traveling 100 miles an hour from London to Manchester. But I never had a problem, is what I keep telling myself. And finally, it all came tumbling down. You know, when I came back from Spain after the stabbing incident, my wife left and took the children. I got back the next day because a court order from my attorney, which is brilliant. And I remember taking them in the house and putting them in front of the TV. And I said to my attorney, there's the check, thank you so much. And I've been sober for 4 days now. So now I'm responsible with my children. I walked into the kitchen and a thought crossed my mind, wouldn't it be great to have 1 beer to celebrate getting my children back. 2 or 3 days later, when the police kicked the door down, there was a bottle of vodkas, empty bottles all over, strewn across the floor. I've obviously left them in the house while going to the liquor store. They kicked me awake. I was oblivion. And they served me with unfit father paper. And as I stumbled to the door, the police was there, the services, the child protection services were there. She was there, mum-in-law there. And mother-in-law took the youngest and Margaret, who was my wife, took my eldest, and she's walking down the path holding mum's hand. And I'm crying. Like, I can't believe what's happened. And one of the police officers was crying. It was very, very sad. And my daughter said three things to me. She says, Daddy, Daddy, please don't go. And as they're walking down the path, get halfway down, she turned around and says, Daddy, Daddy, please get better. And as they got to the gate, my wife opened the big wrought iron gate, and she turned around at 3 years old and said, Daddy, Daddy, please stop drinking. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it for them. I couldn't do it for my wife, my brother, sister, parents. I just couldn't stop. A couple of days after that, I was on the streets. I remember the first night on the streets going, it was pouring down with rain, it's Manchester, so it's cold. Got a jacket on, got some beer with me, so I can remember that one. But I just remember thinking to myself, where the hell did that just go wrong? And there started my 14 months on the streets of violence. And I remember one morning waking up on I had the bench in the middle of Manchester, and everyone has benches to sleep on, personal benches, crazy. The guy next door to me on another bench was stabbed to death because of his sneakers. He stole his sneakers and he tried to stop them. So this violent world. And I come from the project, so I'm used to violence. So after a couple of days and getting used to it, knowing what the streets looks like, and I stayed there for 14 months. I actually died twice. And they brought me back to life again. And I had 7 other suicide attempts. It's like I couldn't die. It's crazy. And then one morning at this spiritual awakening, guy found me, went back to his house. He introduced me to another guy, and that's where my path started. I also knew, even on the street, I had a PhD in psychology. I've later, 10 years ago, got a PhD in behavioral science also. That it was something more to alcohol and drugs, and today mental health as a whole. There was something more. So when we're doing our research, which we spent millions on over the last 30 years, we found out that alcohol has 1% to do with alcoholism, and the same with every other addiction, including depression, anxiety. It was never the problem. And that certain parts of the brain in alcoholics hijack the brain and tell the alcoholics to drink alcohol only. So when you put all this together, it makes sense. It's the reason I couldn't stop, nor did I realize I had a problem. And I just knew one thing. 97% of people homeless in Manchester, UK, die on the streets. I was one of the 3% who got up. And I swore to myself the rest of my life to dedicate my time to helping other people with addiction and alcoholism and their families. And this is where we are 30 years on. I find myself in America and kind of living the dream, and I work with about 11,000 patients right now over that time frame. So yeah, I mean, I love what I do, because I do what I love. I have a great team around me. I have a beautiful wife, 2 English bulldogs, a cat, and I'm happy as can be, but still boots in the trenches, head in the clouds, helping as many people.
What a story. What a story. I want to ask, since this is a podcast about empathy, if you could give a glimpse into, if somebody was listening or watching who could relate to you at somewhere in the story of before you met the streets of Manchester, what words of empathy you would offer. And I also am going to ask, if somebody's listening or watching who knows somebody in their life that is following that track, what words of empathy you could offer.
The nice thing about going through what I did, because at the time it was a nightmare, but now I look back, it was like a semester at Harvard, is meeting somebody. I'm a big believer with alcohol and drugs, not mental health, because we deal with everything, but with alcohol and drugs, unless you've been through it, you can't teach anybody nothing. You just can't. Brain works completely different. I feel what you're going through. I really do. And it's not so, you must be. I feel in my heart about every person, every patient that I meet, what you're going through. Now, I believe in God because of the spiritual awakening. But I believe he put me all through that to be able to empathize with other people. It's just, it's horrible, but it probably is a teaching experience for you going forward. People that are going through it with parents and wives and husbands and friends, because everybody knows somebody who has a drink or drug problem. And if you don't, it's probably you. So everybody knows somebody. So first thing I would suggest with everybody I talk to is start dialogue with them. Don't think that they know that you know that. Start dialogue with them, sit them down as a family member and show your concern. But don't show it as in pointing fingers. It's a disease because of the hypothalamus. I always use, and you probably know about this, and it is when I feel, when you drink to excess, I feel scared. I feel abandoned and scared. That's always the best way. Then you're not directly, why are you drinking so much? Because alcoholism is the only self-diagnosed illness. You cannot drink yourself into becoming an alcoholic. Alcoholics are born and drug addicts are made. So there's a predisposition. We traced it back to the fetus level of alcoholic gene. And this is all new stuff we've done in the last 6 months. We're actually talking to Robb Kelly right now, the health minister, and drug addicts are the addictive personality. How do we know that? Well, 96% of people that come to us with a staunch drug addiction, heroin or cocaine, started in the doctor's office. So I know what you're going through. Start dialogue or make a call to us. Just call us. Right? We're going to try and sell you any courses and nothing like that. We're just here to help. Because if I had somebody that validated my alcoholism, if I had somebody who looked at me and knew what I was going through, but nobody did. I was never approved that I was sick. I was never validated that I was sick. I was the outcast. Now, a couple of ways to bring to somebody insanity in a short period of time: take their identity away and isolate them. Okay, so you've got no identity, but isolate and take away this, like the mask back in the day. And that's how I felt, when I was drinking, I felt as if I was doing something wrong every single time. And that led to the suicide attempt because I didn't think I would fit in. And some of the empathizers with me, it's a relief. It's like, oh my God, somebody gets it. Because during my time up there, nobody got it. Nobody knew what I was talking. I used to get, will you stop with your children? See my back, can you stop because of your wife? Can you? I couldn't. And I knew there was everything else that I did to go. Businesses, everything. But this, I couldn't beat. And I can't understand why I couldn't beat it. And I knew about the alcohol.
So then let me ask, the statement that you're making, if let's say you know somebody in your life who's going through that, is not to point fingers, but to say, when you drink, I feel scared and abandoned. Those were the two words I heard. Why is that useful as a turning point?
Because you're not pointing. You shouldn't be drinking. When you drink, you cause chaos. When you drink, it's a blame game. So there is a slight difference, or a big difference between alcohol and someone who abuses. They both look the same. But if somebody has no choice over what they do pertaining to a drink, we can't point fingers and shout, it'll get worse, and goodness knows what happens. So when we use that method, when you drink to excess, and it doesn't have to be them 2 words. I feel scared. I feel as if I'm going to lose you. Just keep it short. And it's easier to access without going straight to argument or blame. Because it's not blame here. Like the childhood trauma that people think of today is probably 1/10 of what childhood trauma really is. So we studied childhood trauma pertaining to addiction and alcoholism, and we found that addicts and alcoholics are born different. First of all, 3 parts of the brain differ in alcoholics, but we're very sensitive. So me and my brothers stood in the kitchen table. We're about 8, 9, 10. We're in our bare feet, and my mom comes in and she says to both of us, "Will you get down off that table before your dad gets in? Get down." My brother jumps down and I freeze. Now, why do I freeze? Well, this is what I've heard. Get him off that table. Because of the trauma and all that stuff that's happened and the sensitivity around addiction, I freeze straight away, and that's the go-to place every single time. The hippocampus, the insula, the anterior cingulate cortex, they all shrink in their actions when trauma are around, and we feel less than, abandoned, and we feel ashamed. So by saying that, nobody's blaming.
So, okay, this circles to something else that I wanted to ask you about, which is you've come to recognize the core concepts that most addicts and alcoholics have that are rooted in the disease, which is fear, abandonment, and shame, as far as my research tells me. Fear, abandonment, and shame. So these are like some core attachment issues. So I want to really unpack why these experiences can lead to addiction. And I also want you to speak to the cynics who are saying, oh, please, you are a snowflake. You know, everybody needs to toughen up a little bit, and we all have to go through hardship, and not everybody becomes an alcoholic.
I love snowflakes because they melt after a couple of minutes of being with me. It's like, first of all, I don't care what you think, and I don't care if you think it's right or wrong. This is the fact, scientific facts behind it. And drug addiction behavior and alcoholic behavior is all the same. At first, we isolate, we pull away from society. One, two, we stop making dinners with the family. We become unkempt as a whole, and three, we become very scared and nervous. So the chemicals surrounding that are always happen. It's a fight or flight part of the brain every single time, every single day of every single minute is where we are. We're never like normal people. Now, when we recover from that stuff, because for any kind of addiction, you can 100% recover from folly. We can cure addiction. And automatically thinking, well, come and look at our records and you'll soon see, or Google who I am, you'll see. But alcoholism is no cure. So we have to arrest that disease. That's all we can do. You can't cure it because the reason why we can't cure it is because the hypothalamus, which is our survival part of the brain. So this is what happens with the hypothalamus. It tells everybody to drink water, eat food to survive from it. It's a prehistoric boom. This is what we've got to do. At a certain point of the drinking career for an alcoholic, the hypothalamus, and we still don't know why, turns around and tells the brain of the alcoholic to drink alcohol only if it wants to survive. That's why children, family, they're all in the back. My main focus, if I don't drink, I'm going to die, even though it's to the contrary. So that's when part of the survival plan is telling me to drink. What choice do I have? First of all, I don't think I've got a problem because I'm focused on staying alive, when really what's going on over here is horrendous. We never knew that about alcoholics. So pull yourself together, Rob. Do it for your children, Rob. And I never could. And I was angry when I came off the street, angry at the medical fraternity because they didn't know what I was suffering from. Nobody had empathy. Nobody had it for me. Oh, God, there he goes again. He's got drunk again. He's away. Look at drug. Nobody knew what I was going through. That's a very lonely place to be. Mm. And it damages you psychologically all of your life. And if you're lucky to meet somebody who understands this, that can go back and address that childhood trauma, which is the gateway drug, by the way. If you can address that and address everything else around you, and you start to become like me, a successful part of the community who's been through everything, or what's your ego, Rob? I hear that a lot. My ego left me when they took my children off me. Don't come that ego crap with me. I'm not buying into that. This is 30 years of working with God and helping people and being confident in who I am, knowing my true identity, and really not giving a shit what you think about me. And when you get to that point, it's like 100 million pounds of weight has been lifted off you. Mm. That's the place to be. Because what I would hate for anybody on air, Anita, is to get to the age of 70 or 80, look back to their life when they were 30 and 40 years old, and realize there was nobody watching, and you could have done anything you really wanted to do. That would be a crime. Mm. So I'm here today to tell people that 100%. What? Oh, I can't cure addiction. Says who? Who's meant you can't come from that and you can't be a footballer, Jimmy. You can't be says who? Mm. Who's making these rules up? And it's usually family and friends from early on. What do you want to be, Johnny, when you grow up? Want to be an attorney? What is mum and dad? Don't be silly. We're from the project. You can't become an attorney. They're kicked out of us by our family and friends. What this new life gives you is a perspective that you can create empires. You can be a leader. You can be the best person and help people every single day, because that's what we're born to do.
So I want to talk about the healing journey, especially that you help addicts travel. But I've heard you talk about this divine intervention a couple of times now. So I wonder if you could take a minute to just walk us through that very I think, pivotal moment in your life?
So it's middle of the morning, something like Monday morning, 2-ish, going down with rain. I'm done. I mean, I've tried everything, done everything, I'm done. I dropped down to my hands and knees in a very weak man and lost so much weight because I wasn't eating, it was just drinking. And I started to cry. Started to cry like a baby. And what I mean by that, it was hurting in my stomach, sobbing. On my hands and knees, the rain's hitting the back of my head, dripping round to my eyes and mixed with the tears, and it's hitting cobblestones as a colour purple. I will never forget it. And I just looked up to the sky as an atheist, because I had an incident with a priest, which I got scolded for, by the way, back in the day. I looked up to the sky and I said, if there's a God up there, I can't do this on my own anymore. And 30 seconds later, a guy walked around the corner. He missed his last bus home from the Bible study. He'd been walking an hour or so. He took a shortcut through to his house that he'd never taken before, and he came upon me. His name's Derek. And he took me back to his house. And he told me that you can stay, I'm a recovering alcoholic, you can stay for as long as you want, but you must come to these meetings with me. Well, I didn't like the meeting, so he said, I can't have you drinking in the house floor. So I went to the first meeting with him. The next day we went halfway around the circle of people in an AA meeting. This guy said, my name's John and I'm recovered alcoholic. I remember my eyes picking up and my ears picking up and said, Derek, what did you just say? It says recovered. Now I'm angry at the guy. I've lost all this stuff. I'm lonely, I'm lost, I have no idea who I am, and I want to die. And this guy's bragging about being recovered from alcoholism. So after the meeting, I walked up to him and said, hey, John, my name's Rob, would you sponsor me? And he said, no. And he looked me dead in the eyes and said, but I will be a spiritual advisor for 12 weeks. Okay, well, I've never heard that before, and that's a bit weird. But he got me to go around to his house every Wednesday, 7 o'clock. I had to get there, not 5 to, not 2 minutes to. 7 o'clock, I used to walk up to his second floor apartment and knock on the door. And I did this for 12 weeks. And what he taught me was what I used to do. What he taught me about philosophy, what he taught me about the human mind, the spiritual, all that stuff he taught me about. And he told me to go around the world and guarantee that people can recover. This is 1988. Can you imagine a person going around and telling people that? I was threatened in meetings, not physically, but you know, always is Rob the God guy. I took all that crap, all of that I took. But he said, tomorrow your life's going to change, Rob. Says, John, I love you, man, and thank you, you're brilliant and all that, but I'm living in Derek's basement on a blow-up mattress. Nobody knows I'm there. Very next day, Derek come home and offered me a part-time job at factory and cleaning the floor. It later turned into a full-time job, just like John taught me. When I got my first pay packet, this is 2 weeks on, I run to the gas station, buy him a little teddy bear so I could afford it in a car. And I went back to in the car and went back to his house in second floor apartment. Nobody there. Curtains looked a bit dirty. So I knocked on the door. I was knocking on hard. And that girl in the right hand pops her head round. She says, can I help you? And I said, yeah, where's John? Has he moved or something? He said, John who? The guy here. And she said, well, I'm on night shift. I don't really see anybody. So I went around to the left hand, knocked on his door. Big guy comes to the door. What do you want? Where's John moved to? John who? John, your neighbour. Nobody lived in that apartment for at least a year, 2 years. In actual fact, if you was to go through that door right now, you'd fall 2 or 3 flights down and would probably kill yourself. I'm thinking these guys are insane. What's going on? I never got the right place. The door caught everything. I goes back to the meeting the night after, and when I walked in, chairman's like, Robert, oh my God. I'm like, thank God for that. This is not in my mind. And he hugged me. He says, great to see you again, Robert. I said, thank God for that. Does John still come in? And he said, John, who? And I said, the guy that is covered, that I'm opening the coffee machine, having a conversation with him. And he said, Rob, we didn't come near you because we thought you were playing. There was nobody there. We've never found that man. And I've tried and tried with the best detective agencies in Manchester, London. Nobody could ever trace him. But what he taught me there is what I still do today with patients, friends, and sponsees, and all the things.
And what would that be in one sentence? What do you do?
Angel. I was definitely. Now, I wouldn't tell that story for about, I don't know, 10, 15 years. But when I did once a talking gig, there was about 50 people that came up and, oh my God, I've had the same kind of experience, and they'd swap it. I love it, absolutely, but I can't put a finger on the stuff he taught me back then has only become, like he told me we could change different parts of the brain. Impossible. The brain is hardwired, is what we got taught in university, psychology. I read psychology. But he told me it wasn't, that we could redevelop, we can plan, we can, this crazy stuff he kept telling me, but it all came true. Only 10 years ago did we realize the medical fraternity are up in arms. Yay, we found out that we can reprogram the brain. It's called neuroplasticity. Yet John was telling me this 25 years ago. I could never understand it. So I'm very grateful, Derek and John, and I'm very grateful. I only come over, I got a speaking opportunity in Dallas, Texas. They flew me over, they put me up overnight. I was there for a couple of weeks and never went back home again.
So divine intervention, quite literally, John is a bit of an angel, and you are unapologetic about what a miracle that was. It's actually quite refreshing to hear what someone so pedigreed speaks so candidly about their spiritual, the relationship they had to spirit. Let's put it that way. I might circle back to that, but I'll start with your work now. So I went to your website. I saw some very big names and pictures of people that most people would recognize. So I'll drop the website in the show notes so people can go visit for themselves. I understand that you have like a 98% success rate. What makes that approach work?
Okay, so there's a few things we do over the years as we've learned about addiction and the head and brain, and the mind runs the brain. End of story. So if you program the morning to run the brain, wouldn't that be absolutely amazing? It'd be a miracle, but wouldn't that be amazing? Well, we got into the science of that, and we realized that the subconscious wakes you up, and you've got a conscious brain and all that stuff. So we start with an assessment. So usually it's the wife or parents of somebody that's going through it. And I will try my bestest to put them off. I will come up with all sorts of tricks that we don't really want you. If the patient, even if it's a kid, I'll often say to the 18, 19-year-old kid when his parents are out in the room, listen, we'll start Monday. Go out, drink, take drugs, whatever you want to do, we'll start Monday. You're good with that? And if he says, yeah, we're good with that, I can't really walk him out and tell the parents I can't work with him. So the assessment is very, very strong.
Well, what's the alternative? So just forgive me, I'm curious now. So some people are off they go, yay, party, pink slip, and other people's reactions would be what?
I'm done. Can't do this anymore, Dr. I just can't do it. Can't now. So that's the assessment. It's very strict. But it turned out more people would take on with the assessment. This is why the high success rate. We don't mess around. Turn many a rock star down for millions of dollars. It wasn't ready, and I wouldn't put my name or my God, spirit, I love the word spirit. I wouldn't insult him by doing this for money. The other thing we do is if the patient, let's say the patient's a man, he does 90 days, 1 hour a day. His wife must come on board for 2 hours a week. If she doesn't, then we don't have the patient. We don't entertain it. Because when the wife comes on with the husband, the success rate of that patient goes up by 42% alone. Now, when you say that treatment centers, they bring the wife in to bash the husband, well, everything he's done wrong with his drinking and what he did to me, and then selfishness. Shut up about that. The wife is suffering from PTSD and she needs to sort that shit out herself. So she does her work and never allowed to mention husband, and we take husband free, and he's never allowed to mention the wife. We're pointing fingers here. So we say to them, swim to your own life rafts. We're going to pull you in together throughout this 3 months so that you're both on the same line. Because if there's two houses, this is what traditional treatment does. Don't like a lot of treatment centers. This house is where people are sitting. Let's say that house speaks English. Or recovery has its own language. So let's say we pick the patient up, we put him in our house, for instance, and we teach him Chinese. Well, he's fluent in Chinese. Okay. Now we pick the guy back up and we stick him in the English speaking house. What's going to happen? It's going to automatically start speaking English. So they both have to be taught Spanish, whatever it is, so that when they come together, they're both on the same language. Now, we went one further than that, and we tested wives of chronic alcoholic, violent house with children. And we tested, I don't know, 4 or 5 seconds, I can't remember, soldiers coming back from Afghanistan that had seen live trouble, and the PTSD was exactly the same. So then we have to look at, this is a family owned. And if you don't treat it as such, you're never going to get well. You're always going to be in that environment where you hate going home, walking on eggshells. Guys, I want to tell you, that's you. That isn't a marriage, guys. That's a hostage situation. You need to get out of that situation with your kids and leave. If your wife's alcoholic, you just need to get rid of it, because I've seen so many instances as alcoholics and addicts and depressed people, we stay in relationships way too long. We stay in jobs way too long. And the incidents that I've heard of into their hundreds of husbands taking everybody with them. You know?
So I'm now conjuring up empathy for two groups of people as I'm listening to you talk. And then I still want to talk about what you do with the patients on a daily basis, because we've just heard about the intakes. So one is, what would you say to anybody who's listening who is still a dependent on somebody who's an alcoholic? And what would you say to someone who's no longer a dependent, but still the child of an alcoholic who never got helped? What kind of empathy and empathic words would you offer?
Just repeat the first question.
First one is, you're a dependent, you're a kid, you are living in a household. How do you navigate that?
Well, it's hard. I mean, there's childhood trauma crazier and crazier, because what we do is we mimic our parents. It's called enmeshment and learned behavior. So whatever they do, we do. So for instance, if a young girl's growing up in the house of a violent alcoholic household, and dad comes home 2 or 3 times a week drunk, ends up in a fist fight with mom, she's scared, she knows what's going on, but they go to bed, next morning they get up, and the wife and the husband, oh, I love you, oh yeah, I love you too, babe, I'm sorry about last night. What the child learns right there and then is violence equals love. So she will go on, when she goes to college, she will, with the mind, the mirroring part of the brain, and attractive the mind, she will attract somebody 9 out of 10 times, who ends up beating her and ends up, violently drinking alcohol or drugs or whatever. So there's certain fact that if she finds a normal guy who's good to her, she'll self-sabotage that relationship. It's still good in you.
I have like a somatic visceral reaction, not because of lived experience, but because that rings so true to me. So then, if you can't really help in the immediacy of a kid who's dependent on their family, even if it's a dysfunctional family, what would you say with empathy to the adult child as they navigate their reality?
The adult child will always suffer from set trauma. And
Say again?
It will always suffer from the trauma, set trauma. But you won't recognize it, guys. But you won't be able to keep a relationship. You won't be able to keep a job. You're never happy. You're always moaning. And that, again, that's a measurement. It's like you will suffer unless you go back and clear that up with a really good psychologist who knows how to go back and uncover, discover that stuff. That will affect you for the rest of your life. And you may not know that even. But have you ever found yourself in a humdrum job, not keeping a job, not keeping a boyfriend, relationships are not very good, strained every single time? That goes right back to the trauma again. And everybody has it. And the amount of people, I do, it's fine. I grew up in a 50, we had a patient once, I won't say where from, let's call it Texas. We had a guy once, and his father came to me, very affluent father, very, very well known in his industry as a billionaire. And I got to the kid who was 21, and we went through all the stuff, and he admittedly said, I got no trouble with trauma, and it was great. 50 million pounds, got a car when I was like 17, got a brand new Bentley or something. But he was only allowed to see his dad on a Sunday between the hours of 2 and 3 o'clock. It was very busy. Well, along that comes abandonment. Along that comes at school when everyone's talking about the dad's shame. A lot of that comes to now you're guilty because dad couldn't see. It just is a whole wasp nest of stuff going on psychologically that you can't manage it. It becomes overwhelming. So most of the stuff sits in the subconscious brain. And this is what happens with people with trauma. The prefrontal cortex is our decision maker. So you have conscious and subconscious fighting for your attention all day. Be in a good mood or bad mood, it's these guys. Okay. So when the prefrontal cortex shouts to the brain, give me an answer to my problem right now, it's very good at that. And the conscious brain and subconscious brain will reply in milliseconds. But the only problem is it doesn't have to be the right answer. The prefrontal cortex only wants an answer. So most times during the trauma that you don't know about, the decision on that gimme comes out the subconscious brain and is usually bad for the human being.
Mm. So now you've got an adult in your treatment odyssey, and they've passed the intake. They've got a spouse that's committed and they have reached their breaking point. How do you help patients on a daily basis? What does that look like?
So you come into if you're new, we're very big on subliminal messaging. So if you're new, we will research you. We want to find out who you are, what you're doing, what you're into. So let's say, for instance, you like the Cowboys because you live in Texas. We research that, see you on social media with your Cowboys t-shirt on. So what we'll do then is when you come in, there'll be a couple of things happening. There'll be a Cowboys cup or can of something lodged into the hedge where you can't see it, but you get out the car and pass it. As you get to the front door, one of the staff will be wearing a Cowboys t-shirt covered in like a cardigan thing, so you can see it, but you can't see it. Then as he sits in waiting room, we're all watching him on camera. There's the Dallas Cowboys team playing in 80s, 90s, whatever, when they were real good. And he's watching that, and when he comes in, there'll be a picture in my office somewhere of Tony Romo, for instance. So subliminally already, we've taken all the boundaries down and all the walls down, because now he connects with me and the staff in the connecting his feelings that you've known us for ages. You ever been abroad, guys, and let's say you're a Manchester United fan and you've got the shirt on, and you meet somebody else you've never seen from another country, and he's got a Manchester, bonding straight away. So when the bonding can happen through subliminal work, you check all the walls down and you get to work straight away. Neuro-linguistic programming, somatic experience, brain spotting, psychology, breath box is our nine-dimensional messages, subliminal messages down, and role plays and psychodramas that we go through. And we will go, and no two people are the same. We do not have a program where we go, hey, tomorrow I'm on page 7 with John. No, it's how you show up either on the internet or walking in. It's how you'll be treated. And we have therapists there, we have 9D people there, and we have me here. I tend to only deal with like 3 patients every 3 months now. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff you got. Then you have to text in 3 times a day. Now, roughly 30 grand a month to 150 grand a month, depending the place where you're in alcoholism. But you have to text in like 3 times a day and get your times. And we say to you, what's the best time? And 10 a.m., 1 o'clock, and 7 p.m. Perfect. Okay, here's the deal. So now I want to train in your pathways to be available, to be aware of time around you. If you text in at 1 minute, let's say 10 o'clock, 1 minute to 10, to count it as a no. You give us 3 no's, then you dropped. So if you text in late 3 times, you drop. And one could be next week, one could be next month, after being in a row. If you're simply say 1 minute late, you're done. I'm off screen and you don't get your appointment back, do 3 of them and you're done. Get no refunds out of it. And we go through all of this before we take them on. Saying, here's our street. You get homework. Every patient who comes on has to start with one book. Start writing a book. You're giving tasks with other people, go out, compliment people, organize, do service, and all this stuff that we give becomes like a full-time job for them. And then through it takes 90 days approximately for all chemicals to rebalance in the brain. That's where 90 days comes from. So yeah, and then we guarantee you that your life will not look the same. It'll be amazing, the best life you've ever lived. And if you follow our program to the T, and you relapse, all the funds your money, putting on a company in the world other than it's not about stopping drinking. It's about changing the brain, changing neural pathways, changing behavior. Like, again, alcohol will never come to you on Friday and go, hey, Rob, let's have a drink. Starts 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, something in my body would change, some actions, some moods, some chemical change. I say pissed off with somebody. I instead of going upstairs straight away, I stay in the kitchen. All them slight little somatic experience behaviors tells me that things aren't going right. We're addressing.
Okay, so I'm starting to pick up on some things. One is somebody is coming to see you because they've had trauma in their life. So that's something that's going to need to be looked at. But they have to hit sort of the quote unquote rock bottom. Like they just absolutely can't go on the way they're going. They also need to show up with a fair bit of consistency. That's so that you're retraining the brain. And I suppose some people might say it's very callous that you're turning away people who might need your help in this moment, but you're saying, no, can't work with you because they still haven't reached their quote unquote rock bottom yet, I guess is the theory that you're using, right? So you're working with people who are at the end of their rope and are totally committed to transforming their lives. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. Rock bottom doesn't mean homeless or lost everything. We picked a woman up from a 5-star hotel drinking $2,000 bottles of champagne, but that was a rock bottom psychologically. But yeah, repetition needs to happen. So basal ganglia. And if you show up and you're not ready, there's nothing I can do. And if you're so sanctimonious, guys at home, that as a treatment center, me and you could do this right now, okay? And you pick a phone up now, pick any treatment center.
Yeah.
The first thing we're going to ask us, do you have insurance? Can I take your insurance details? Why are you taking insurance details? Getting pricey. You don't even know what's wrong with him.
Yeah.
How do you know you can? And that's why success in treatment centers are 3 and 4%. You have to have empathy with them. You have to understand what the family's going through. You have to be honest with the family. Like when Charlie comes in here, mom and dad's crying in the waiting room, and we do our assessment and he passes, and I go out to that family and tell him 100% guaranteed that I'll get him well, and he will be amazing after he leaves us 90 days. How can I go out and do that with what Spirit has done to me? How dare I go out and do that and promise people? No. And the people that allow patients time and time back in your treatment center at $10,000 a month for his 3rd or 4th time, how dare you? How do you sleep at night? You're not fixing the problem. You're becoming part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really, it's part of recovery. No, it's not. It's part of the disease. Mm-hmm. We look at these guys and think they're our peers. We go into treatment centers that promise everything but teach nothing because they don't know anything. The medical fraternity is baffled with alcoholism and addiction. Why? There's no money in getting us well, guys. You ever been to the doctor for an ailment? Is give you a pill. You take that pill. It's cured the ailment, so you don't have to take the pill ever again. Yeah, I didn't think so. A well human being not liked in all the countries, America, England. You're not liked. You have no use to anybody. They can't sell you. So we get this loads of times, Anita, and somebody will come to me and go, Dr. Rob, I'm so depressed, I don't know what to do. Okay, well, how long have you been depressed? It's been 4 years now. 4 years of constantly, yeah, I just, do you take medication for it? Yeah, I take blah, blah. How long have you been taking that? About 3 years now. When did you think it was going to kick in? Because it hasn't kicked in yet. And you're still taking the medication for a problem it's not solving. So then we go back to the American medical dictionary, we look up depression, and it says simply lack of serotonin. Why aren't we asking ourselves and friends why my serotonin is low in the first place? You can't cure drug addiction with a drug. You can't cure stopping drinking whiskey with beer. There has to be a different approach, not using the pharmaceutical industry to get well. And there's tons and tons and tons of that goes on. We will never, I'm a PhD, not a medical doctor, thank God, when it comes to this industry, I will never tell you to come off any meds, but will definitely not suggest you go on any, unless, again, psych only. If you have heart problems, not touching that one, you take as much as you can. When it comes to psych, when it comes to alcoholism and addiction, we're still being thrown in the trash of people that don't really care, don't really matter in this world. And I'm just sick and to death of 2 things, of people treating us like that and people dying. They're dying of lack of information. Oh, just stop drinking, Rob, because of your children. If I could have done that, I'd have done it years ago. You can't do it, you know? Now, there's a difference between alcoholic, again, and someone who abuses alcohol. They both look the same. There's ways of finding out that real easy. But if you are abusing alcohol or a heavy drinker, just stop, grow up, stop what you're doing. You're not an alcoholic. Someone's tagged you with that. God bless you. If you can't trace it 3 generations back, and then when you take one drink, you can stop. You're not an alcoholic. And we want to tag people with Johnny around the corner, he drinks a bottle a day. He's an alcoholic. I told you guys, alcoholism is the only self-diagnosed illness in the world. 10 DWIs did not make you an alcoholic. It's generational. We traced it back to Peters. It's generational and learned behavior from the trauma that we go through as a child.
I hear your passion, and there was some anger that was laced into that. So I want to change gears and invite what it feels like to recognize when somebody has turned a corner. That moment when something has been transcended, something has happened, and you see the outcome taking shape. What have you noticed? Is there something that can be generalized? Is there something that can be, is there a common denominator experience among people who recover?
I think I never get angry, by the way. I get passionate.
Passionate, okay.
I never come out and raise my voice so people will listen to me. Day one, man, come in here, give me an hour. I'll change your life in an hour. I'll change something in an hour. The 300 neural pathways die every single day. What are you replacing them with? And the question is, come in my room for an hour or the other therapist, and we'll change that straight away. So I always tell people, mom and dad, whatever, when he comes in, if you don't see a huge difference with him in the first hour, take him somewhere else. Obviously, we're doing something wrong. So when people see Derek for like 6 years and they're still struggling, I don't understand it. You can change behavior of somebody else and thought patterns instantly. If you don't believe me, I guess, next time you're in a built-up area of people, sneakers are always the best. Watch for somebody walking towards you with sneakers, good sneakers. 2 words, nice sneakers. He's going to go, oh, thank you, man. Turn around and watch him walk over. He's going to look down at the sneakers at least 2 or 3 times. Now you just changed the world. Guess what? He goes on to the wife and girlfriend. Now he's in a good mood, she's in. But it's like the depression, hang around 9 depressed people, and you will become 10. Hang around 9 happy people. And we've done research on this as well in the region. 1 people cannot change 9, but 9 people can change 1 in an instant. When you come to get treated, you see that light in their eyes. You see that for the first time in their life, it might lead this can work because we're a different approach. And when you see that, I never get sick of seeing that. Most of the times I tear up. It's just a miraculous thing that happens because we're not doing what other people are doing. And that's very, very important thing that we don't do. We don't use people. We don't charge people for nothing. You know, we're passionate. If you're passionate about something, you will change somebody in seconds.
2 final questions, Dr. Robb. What a fantastic hour this has been. So my penultimate question is, it sounds like you're in the business of uplifting people. To what extent does spirit enter that?
I've never, in my time as a human being, I've never ever, who was truly alcoholic, addict, depressed, all that stuff, never met a sober or clean atheist. Unfortunately, just in my opinion, it's opinion. It's very, very, in fact, it's vital. So I once thought what vital meant once, and I looked up in the Oxford English, and it says necessary to life. So it's necessary to life that you get some kind of spirit, some kind of power. Once the neural pathways are changed, okay, and once the mind can't touch it, feel, sits in the brain, mind over the matter, brain's matter. Once this energy connects another energy, and we change your neural pathways, your DNA changes. We've got it improved, science has improved, we've done research, we've done trials and tests. Like, why is it important that my DNA changes? I ain't the same person I was before. I tell you, we get 2 lives in one lifetime. You know, what are you going to do with the second one? Same as the first, or be crazy, do something we're not supposed to do. I tell people, oh, do something we're not supposed to do. What, like build an empire, talk on the elevator, you know, buy a bike, go whatever we're not supposed to do as alcoholics and addicts or depressed people, do it the opposite and make a name for yourself. I'm like, grandfather told my mom to tell me, because he was passed before I was born, that you need to work very hard until you don't have to introduce yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I love what I do because I do what I love. To me.
But through that answer, I never heard religion. So it's something higher power, but it doesn't have religious dogma, right? Okay.
Correct. Yeah. I don't go to church. I don't read the Bible or any of that stuff. But I do have a connection to my God, who saved me from the streets and continues to help me save the people, along with the science behind it. And that's my experience.
Beautiful. My last question. The question I always end these interviews with is as follows. Can you think of a time in your life when you were on the receiving end of empathy and what that meant for you?
It was the John I met. He could feel my pain. He could feel the struggles I went through. As we changed together, I like to think, the journey became easier because he was almost one step ahead of me when it comes to feelings, when it comes to being seen, being validated. And that time with that man changed my whole life. So that's the guy I'd always go back to.
So I'm gonna poke at this one more time. That's a general answer, which I love, and I know you adore him, and he played a pivotal role in your life. But can you dip into a specific moment where you felt his empathy?
His empathy or mine?
His empathy to you.
It was all of the time I was with him. It was the way he looked, the way he behaved, the love, the encouragement. I mean, he was just all there with me, and therefore I became John to a certain degree, because we are who we hang around with. But yeah, I mean, it's 94% of communication is non-verbal. So you can pick all this behavior of understanding, love, and all that stuff that goes with that. It felt very good for me because I was never validated as a child or rewarded or anything like that. So it felt as if I was safe. And he was safe. And that time in that room was like 100 hours every time we went. Because time just stopped. When you get to another person on that level, the time stops and it's just, 40 odd days, it's 2 hours later. I think that's the place I want to be. What's going on?
And as I heard you say, he did that sometimes without words. Incredible. The power of empathy.
Yes.
I have really enjoyed our hour together. Thank you so much for the work you do. Thank you so much for sharing all this insight. I'm sure that there'll be minimum someone, many more maybe, who have listened or watched this show and have taken something important away from it. So please check out the show notes to get in touch if you have further questions. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching or listening. We'll see you next week at Purposeful Empathy.
If you know someone who would benefit from this episode, please share it with them now. Post the link to your socials and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. The world needs more empathy, and you have an important role to play.